We are back. Today, it's another Yap session. I'm trying to figure out, I can't like do a Yap session every day, but I want to make sure I at least have like double uploads on the second channel. But I do have enough stuff to talk about right now. So it'll probably be like a Yap session every 3 days, you know, like every other day at minimum with like 4 days off Yap, 3 days on Yap. We're yapping. But yeah, today we're going to talk about redirection mons and regulation H. This is just going to be more like guide type content, sort of an overarching guide on how to use each redirection mon. We'll touch individually on each one of them. We won't go super in depth on any of them, but I'll explain like their place in the metagame and basically the scenarios and teams in which you'll be wanting to use them and where they excel, because you can't just like slap whatever redirection mon you want onto whatever team and expect it to work. So yeah, you know, if you guys enjoy this standpoint in time, do me a favor, leave a like in the video, subscribe to the channel, turn notifications, and Gamersup's ad here. This channel is partnered with Gamersup's. If you want to support my work and get great tasting drinks, you can order Gamersup's through my link in the description down below or with code Moxie boosted at checkout for 10% off. Gamersup's is a caffeinated product that I recommend only to my 18 plus viewers, but my link will send you to their caffeine-free product section just in case. Every product purchased through my link supports my channel financially, so I'd really appreciate the support. Now back to the video. Go ahead and get into it. Okay, so there's a number of redirection mons in this format. As far as I can count, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 relevant redirection mons. That's as high as I can count. I can't do 10. You know, I count on my fingers. I get to 9. I hit that last finger, and it's like 50-50 if I remember what number that is. But, so, each one of these redirection mons has its own specific niche in the format. Obviously, having different types, having different typings, moves, and abilities, and stats is going to change how you play each one of these and which teams they fit on. So we're just going to go down the list. I'll talk about each one of these mons briefly and the type of team you'll want to use it on, and like about how good I feel like they are in the format at the moment. It's kind of hard to people always ask me, "Hey Marcos, hey Mr. Boosted, what's the best redirection mon right now?" And like the answer is always, it depends. It's like someone asked me, like, should I use multi-scale Dragonite or should I use inner focus Dragonite? And the answer is always going to be, it depends, because you need to look at the rest of your team and what you're trying to accomplish. So let's begin. First off, we have Vivillon, which is a Pokemon I think a lot of people have forgotten about over the years. It's got a couple of things going for it, but the most common way to run Vivillon at the moment is going to be with Sleep Powder, Hurricane, Rage Powder, and Protect. You can drop any one of these moves for Pollen Puff if you really want to, because Pollen Puff is actually a pretty great bug-type move that not only is 90 base power, making it as strong as Bug Buzz, but also allows you to target a partner and heal them, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, there are two abilities you can go for here. There's Compound Eyes, and then there's also Friend Guard. For my money, if you're gonna run Pollen Puff, you probably want to drop Sleep Powder and go for Protect, and go with Friend Guard, and maybe Air Slash because you don't want to miss your Hurricanes. But there's a reason people are not running Friend Guard as often as they're running Compound Eyes. You see, when you run Compound Eyes, you're able to run Hurricane and Sleep Powder, and the accuracy of these moves is pretty impressive. At a 1.3 times multiplier, the math ends up being that Hurricane is 91% accurate and Sleep Powder becomes 97% accurate. So Sleep Powder effectively becomes Spore with a mild chance that you could miss, and Hurricane becomes one of the more accurate moves in the game. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure Air Slash can miss. Air Slash is 95 accuracy. Yeah, it's a little less accurate than Air Slash, but for the power that you get, 110 base power coming off a 90 special attack, that's going to be worth it. That's going to be doing some pretty substantial damage to opposing Rillaboom and Amoonguss, not to mention the fact that you wall Rillaboom as Vivillon. Well, more or less. I mean, 80 HP, 50 defense, you sort of wall it. You have a ×4 resist into it, and the only coverage moves that Rillaboom runs are Bug, which you resist, Ground, which you're immune to, and Fighting, which you resist. And Fighting's extremely, extremely uncommon. Dark is like, if they're running Knockoff, that's the only one that's going to hit you. But yeah, Vivillon excels on one particular type of team, and that's going to be the, let me pull it up, but that's going to be the Garchomp teams that are running around right now. Let me try to pull up. I always forget how to do this. You have to search for a Pokemon. All right, I always forget how to do this. Find team, Vivillon. Okay, yeah, that's how you do it. So yeah, as you can see, Vivillon excels a lot next to Garchomp, and that's for one pretty obvious reason. You're able to deal with opposing Rillaboom, which is going to be able to stuff Garchomp's Earthquakes with Grassy Terrain, but also you're going to be able to click Sleep Powder or like even Tailwind next to Garchomp without having to worry about hitting yourself with Earthquake. That's the other reason you see a whole lot of Terra Flying on Garchomp teams. You tend to see stuff like Terra Flying King Gambit. Terra Flying Dragonite, obviously they're usually already Flying type, or they're always already Flying type, but usually you run Terra Flying because you want to click Terra Blast. Talonflame's also another great mod next to it. So you see that quite a bit. But yeah, as you can see, like Vivillon's most common partner is just straight up Garchomp, and it's basically just for that type synergy. You know, you deal with Rillaboom pretty well. You're able to put things to sleep. You're able to possibly set up Tailwind if you really want to. I don't run Tailwind on mine, but it is an option. It is an option that I actually did consider at one point. So yeah, that's really all Vivillon has going for it. I don't really see it on any teams other than Garchomp teams. In fact, if we look at the results, it's kind of rare you find anything without Garchomp. But yeah, if you're going to run Vivillon, put Garchomp next to it. The type synergy is phenomenal. The only downside is that you end up being quite weak to opposing Alolan Ninetales, but as you can see, like the best teams with Garchomp do have ways of dealing with that, namely with Golden Go and other partners like Primarina that are able to switch in on Blizzards and Hurricane, not Blizzards and Hurricanes, and Blizzards and Freeze Dries. So yeah, also Incineroar. Incineroar is another phenomenal partner for those guys. But that's how you use Vivillon. Very straightforward. It's not the best redirection mon in the game as far as longevity goes. It's quite frail, but that's the reason you run the Focus Sash and, of course, Terra Ghost. Next up is Clefable. Now, Clefable is an interesting one because Clefable is... It was at one point the most popular redirection mon in the format before falling off due to a rise in usage for Electabuzz and Magmar. We'll talk about why Electabuzz and Magmar are common at the moment right now, but Clefable does still have a niche. Its main thing that it has going for it is the ability Unaware, which allows for it to deal with opposing Archaldon pretty okay after a Terra, depending on what Terra you use. Like Terra Grass is pretty alright, because you're going to ignore the Body Press damage. Terra Steel is also really good into it. But yeah, you ignore the boost from Body Press and the defense boost. You also ignore the Electro Shot boosts. But another thing it's able to do is deal with opposing Dondozo, because you're going to hit it with Moonblast on its pretty low special defense stat, while ignoring all the boosts that it has. Now, Clefable runs probably the most standard support moveset ever: Protect, Follow Me, Moonblast, Helping Hand, with Helping Hand or Protect usually being dropped for Icy Wind or some other tech move. We've seen even Misty Train pick up as a way to deal with opposing Sneasler here and there, but it's not like the most common tech ever. You can just kind of see it in like the lab mouse statistics. Clefable can run probably the most items out of any of these redirection users. Citrus Berry is definitely the most common, but we have seen some usage for Covert Cloak as a way to allow it to deal with opposing Sneasler, and we've even seen like Rocky Helmet as a way to have it deal with opposing Maushold, because having a Follow Me user in front of Maushold is really nice. It's going to allow you to prevent beat up strats on opposing Annihilate, and also like self-population bomb with Archaldon. So that's Clefable's main role. Clefable was always like more of one of those Pokemon that fit on like those balancy archetypes. You know, the King Gambit, the Dragapult, that sort of thing. Mainly, you would use Clefable over like Electabuzz or Magmar on those sort of teams if you have a weakness to set up Pokemon like Dondozo. As you can see here, some of the best teams of it. You have King Gambit, Rillaboom, Sneasler, Clefable, Dragapult, and Volcarona. You can see these teams are very... They're not super setup reliant, but like they have mons on the team that would like to set up. So like Quiver Dance, Volcarona, Swords Dance, King Gambit. And yeah, I mean like Clefable is definitely like a very splashable redirection mon in this situation. Mainly just because, you know, it's fat. It's probably, is it the fattest redirection mon in the format? I think it is. I mean, unless you count like Amoonguss, I think Clefable is actually the fattest redirection mon. But yeah, I mean, usually Terra Water is pretty phenomenal for it. Its main issue is dealing with opposing Sneasler, and that's another reason Clefable's fallen off a little bit. But there are ways to deal with it. I personally like running this stat spread on my Clefables, because if you run a Citrus Berry and Terra Water, you're able to get 3-hit KO'd by Sneasler, allowing you to throw 2 Moonblasts into it. You can also go with like a Rocky Helmet set if you want to get some extra damage and Maybe invest a little bit more in special attack to try to hit it for like 50%. But yeah, this is Clefable. Clefable's a cool guy. He's a decent redirection mon. I'm not my favorite, but you know, it is what it is. Anyways, next up on the list, we have Indeedee. Now, Indeedee female is probably the redirection mon people are most used to seeing. It's sort of like the redirection mon in previous formats, but it's also the easiest one to run. Like, if you really want to get the most out of a redirection Pokemon and you're not too concerned about having priority moves on your team, you can just run Psychic Seed, Psychic Surge, Indeedee, Terra Grass, or Terra Fairy, depending on your use case. Protect, Follow Me, Trick Room, Psychic. Because Indeedee sets up its own Psychic terrain, it is one of the redirection mons. It's one of like the only redirection mons actually that is immune to Fake Out, which is really nice. It's not always immune to Fake Out, obviously. They can reset the terrain, like to be Grassy Surge or whatever with Rillaboom. But Psychic Surge on lead allows for you to run like a minimum speed Indeedee. You usually have terrain dominance since Encursion isn't really a factor in this format. But you're able to set up that Psychic terrain, block Fake Out, go for Follow Me, make it really easy for opposing or for partner Armarouge or other Pokemon like Gallade, Hatterene to set up Trick Room. You tend to see Indeedee more on the Psy Spam teams and less on like bouncy teams. It's usually like hard Trick Room or Psy Spam because of how reliable Indeedee is as a Trick Room setter. Ever since it got access to Trick Room itself, not only is it like the Follow Me user next to the Trick Room setter, but it is the Trick Room setter on its own, so there are some mind games. So if you look at like Indeedee teams, Indeedee female, you can see that they're mostly going to be like Ursaluna or like Lilycole teams, and we even see some fast Sunroom teams like this one with the Delphox. Indeedee Delphox is another combo at the moment, but we do see, you know, Indeedee, Armarouge, Scarf Annihilate, Ursaluna, Torkoal, and the fighting type is usually up in the air, but in this case it was a Decidueye. And then yeah, like most of what we're gonna see, ignore that Piplup. Most of what we're gonna see is sort of these just teams that focus directly on get the Trick Room off, try to win in 5 turns or lose in 6. Like, that's basically how it works. Or it's, I guess with Trick Room, because it takes a turn to set up, it's win in 4 turns or lose in 5. That's sort of how it is. But yeah, another use case for Indeedee is putting it next to Pokemon that don't necessarily want to be slow in, like, you know, Trick Room, but might rely on items like Focus Sash or something to get the most out of them. These would be Pokemon like, you know, your Meowscaradas or your Focus Sash, Lycanrocs. But for the most part, you're going to be seeing it on Sunroom teams or Hard Trick Room teams next to like Torkoal, Lilligant, Ursaluna Blood Moon even, but Ursaluna Blood Moon usually wants Farigiraf next to it, and of course Armarouge, Hatterene. So one of the more straightforward Pokemon. If you're not running Trick Room, I don't think that you really need Indeedee. Electabuzz. Now, this is my personal Electabuzz spread. It isn't the most common, but it's the one I like. Electabuzz is a very, very interesting redirection Pokemon in this format. It doesn't have the greatest natural bulk, but when you apply the Eviolite onto it, it is pretty bulky. 65 HP, you max that out, you invest in your defenses, you have pretty good special defense. Its main deal is that it is sort of a roll compression Pokemon. If you're gonna run Clefable, but you also want speed control and to run safety goggles on it, maybe don't run Clefable, maybe run Electabuzz. And that's because Electabuzz is able to do a few things that Clefable can't really do super well. Follow Me, of course, is like the main reason you're using it, but you also have access to Taunt and Electroweb. I personally, actually over Taunt, have run Thunderwave as like super speed control, but its main deal is that Electabuzz has a very high speed stat for the format at 105. This is going to allow you to outspeed very notable Pokemon. Opposing base 100s, I think it's the same speed tier as Pawmod, isn't it? Yeah, you could technically like speed type Pawmod and try to go for that for that taunt on the Revival Blessing, but as far as like Pokemon that it has to compete with in speed tiers, most notable ones is it can outspeed Garchomp, it can outspeed Delphox, it's able to outspeed like Salamence. Palafin isn't really a factor right now, but it can outspeed Tauros, Volcarona, Choice Specs Typhlosion's another big one. You can Electroweb that. This is Hisui and Typhlosion, obviously. You're also going to be outspeeding basically everything. Actually, the speed tier is kind of goated the more I think about it. Yeah, base 105, it even allows you a little bit more room to invest in your defenses without having to go like timid max speed. But yeah, its main deal is it's bulky enough to eat like very powerful special hits, notably from Golden Go. Specs make it rain on the Eviolite Electabuzz. Just it does kind of just bounce off of it because of the natural resist. Electric's a really rare typing in this format, so having that at your disposal is super nice. You only have one weakness in ground types, so you can just Terra Ghost away from that, and that's actually like super useful. But beyond that, just being able to use Vital Spirit to go for Follow Me against moves like Sleep Powder from opposing Hisuian Lilligant, or Spore from Amoonguss is really huge, because usually you would have to Terra Grass your Redirection Mon or put safety goggles onto them in order to avoid that sort of thing, but being able to do that naturally is really nice. The other one of the two Gen 1 brothers is, of course, going to be Magmar, who is going to be able to run Follow Me, Protect, Taunt, and usually Overheat. The reason you run Overheat is because you're not investing a ton into special attack in the Magmar, but it does have a respectable base 100 special attack stat. And since its main focus is going to be Redirection, it does have like the same niche as Electabuzz in that it can go for like Follow Me with Vital Spirit to avoid sleep, but it's also able to go for the Taunt and stuff while having massive burst damage in Overheat. And even if you want to drop Protect, you can run Will-O-Wisp, which is another phenomenal move. Will-O-Wisp allows for you to burn opposing Dragapult, opposing King Gambit, opposing Rillaboom, basically anything you don't want like to run over your team. The main difference between them is obviously going to be that speed stat. You can see where Electabuzz has base 105 speed with 57 defense and 85 special defense, and 65 HP. Magmar has base 93 speed with similar defenses, but it like has greater special attack, so, and greater physical defense. Am I blanking on this? 57. Oh no, their bulk is like the exact same. Why did I think it was different? I don't know why I thought it was different. I guess I'm just used to Magmar being bulkier because you're not running as much speed on it. But yeah, it just has like greater damage output, and also as like a fire type, that's actually really not a super rare typing in this format, because you do have Volcarona, Incineroar, occasional Tauros, Blaze, and Talonflame, but like those fire types don't tend to have like the same kind of burst damage as Magmar does. So being able to roll compress your anti Rillaboom, anti King Gambit Pokemon into a Redirection Mon is really cool. It's almost like having it's almost like having like Ogerpon, like Hearthflame back. You don't have Ogerpon Hearthflame, but you have something in a way, if you like squint your eyes and tilt your head, resembling what it used to do. It was a sleep immune Follow Me user that could deal with those two Pokemon. That's kind of cool. Maushold. Maushold is probably the Redirection Mon that I think most people are the most annoyed by, and that's because it has a number of phenomenal sets, from Safety Goggles, Friend Guard, Terra Ghost with like bulk, to also I should go back and point out that Magmar and Electabuzz, they're on like the same type of teams. It's really just a matter of preference. So you can see like Electabuzz is going to be on like these balancy King Gambit, Rillaboom, Dragapult, King Gambit, Rillaboom, Dragapult, Golden Go. Like it's the balance teams, right? It's on the balance berry teams, and Magmar is similarly on the balance berry teams, except it's more commonly put with Dragapult. Basically, if you have Dragapult, you use Magmar, and if you don't, Electabuzz is usually quite good. But yeah, Maushold. Maushold is the Redirection Mon people are probably most annoyed by when they have to go up against it. Terra Ghost is going to be the Terra basically 100% of the time. It has access to Follow Me. It's also the fastest Follow Me user, meaning that it's going to outspeed a ton of extreme speed users, so it can actually redirect extreme speed where other Pokemon cannot. It has access to Taunt, Protect, Super Fang, and most annoyingly, Population Bomb, which if you use Population Bomb, you can drop Friend Guard. Friend Guard, lowers the damage on partners. But if you drop like Super Fang for Population Bomb and you run Technician, you now have one of the scariest Pokemon in the game, hands down. You can run just like this stat spread. And Pop Bomb with a wide lens and Technician makes it so this Mon effectively has a 20 base power times 10, that's 200, with a 50% boost, that is 300. You effectively have Explosion. You have Explosion. That does not hurt you back unless they're Rough Skin or Rocky Helmet. And it's single target. This will one-shot many Pokemon. What it will not one-shot is Partner Archaladon. So you can use this Population Bomb as a delete Dragonite, delete Garchomp, delete Rillaboom, delete whatever Pokemon's on the other side of the field button, and also a give Partner Archaladon +6 defense button. Beyond that, Taunt, Follow Me, Protect, the usual works is phenomenal. It has Encore, it has a number of like really great support moves, and like I said, it also has the option to run Renegard. You're usually going to see Maushold next to Archaldon and Annihilate, and basically like no other Pokemon. Those are like its bread and butter combos. But yeah, if we type in Maushold here, we can see basically all these teams are going to be, we have, this is an old format. Sorry, someone's playing Reg G again. We have Archaldon Rain, we have Archaldon Rain, Archaldon Rain, we have Annihilate, we have, I guess there's one Archaldon Rain, Archaldon Rain and Annihilate, we have Archaldon Rain and Annihilate, we have Archaldon Rain and Annihilate, we have Archaldon Rain and Annihilate, and we again have non-Archaldon Rain and Annihilate. You can see where I'm going with this. It does like it does like two things, and it does them really well. Blows up opposing Pokemon, and it enables partner Annihilate in Archaldon by self-targeting them. Of course, if there is Annihilate, they usually don't run Pop Bomb, they usually run Beat Up. And at that point, they're probably running the Safety Goggles set and not the Wide Lens set. Amoonguss, another Balance Berry Pokemon. Tend to see it a lot with like Incineroar and Porygon 2. Regenerator, Citrus Berry. It can also run like Rocky Helmet. It's a grass poison type, meaning that it's immune to opposing spore moves, but because you're running Rage Powder, you don't really redirect any spores or sleep powders into you. The spread that I like to run is just 244, 180, 84. This just guarantees that it lives like Specs Make It Rain from opposing Golden Go, while also taking like Flare Blitz and stuff from Incineroar. It's very basic, but yeah, where this mon specializes is going to be longevity. It's probably the most annoying Pokemon to have to KO in the game, because every time it switches out, it gets 30% of its HP back rounded down, or 33% of its HP back rounded down due to Regenerator. It also has access to Pollen Puff and Spore, so it's going to be able to put the opposing Pokemon to sleep consistently. It doesn't have to worry about accuracy. And Pollen Puff, which of course is going to be that move that we mentioned on Vivillon, except this mon runs it much more commonly than Vivillon does. It's going to be basically Heal Pulse, but also a damaging move. Great roll compression, even though it isn't stab, even though it doesn't do that much damage coming off a base 85 special attack with 0 investment. It is really nice for picking up like KOs on weakened Pokemon, Focus Sash users, or even just decent damage on opposing grass types like Rillaboom. Amoonguss is one of the most used redirection users in this format, and we can just see that is apparent by putting it on here. You tend to run it next to Pokemon like King Gambit, like fighting, or things that are like fighting weak because of that natural type synergy. It's also really good next to Porygon 2 and Incineroar, like I said. But yeah, we see it on a few different archetypes. It's on a lot of things. Next to Mouseape, next to Archaldon Rain, next to P2 Balance, on Sand. It's probably the most splashable one of these Pokemon. Like the only reason you wouldn't run Amoonguss is if you have like a secondary grass type on your team, like Rillaboom. Usually it's like if I have a Rillaboom on the team, I don't want to run another grass type. Usually I'll put like Magmar or Electabuzz or something over the Amoonguss. But if there's no grass type, Amoonguss is a phenomenal redirection mon. It's good anti-trick room, and it's just like one of the best Pokemon in the game. Volcarona. Now Volcarona is a redirection mon that can either be redirection or setup, and it's sort of like Magmar in that it's like huge burst damage if you go for the redirection set, because you tend to run like either Overheat or Heat Wave. I like Overheat with like Rage Powder, Will-O-Wisp, and Struggle Bug. You can also drop Struggle Bug for Protect. I like Struggle Bug, but basically in closed team sheet, you have to guess if it's Rage Powder or Quick Dance. If it's open team sheet, Covert Cloak, Flame Body, Rage Powder, Will-O-Wisp, Overheat, really, really good combo. Terra Dragon's also phenomenal here because there aren't a lot of fairies in this format, and the only like Pokemon you have to worry about at that point are going to be opposing dragon types and ice types. Volcarona deals pretty well with opposing dragon types solely due to it having Flame Body and Will-O-Wisp and stuff, being able to burn those dragon types like opposing Garchomp and opposing Dragonite, even Dragapult at times, depending on the set. But or like the interaction, like if they go for Phantom Force into you, you'll probably burn them. But yeah, Volcarona is phenomenal in this format for a few reasons. It has great special attack stat, even though its physical bulk isn't that amazing. If you like invest heavily into HP with some investment in the physical bulk and a little bit of special defense, it's going to allow you to tank a lot of hits. You have a natural resistance to Golden Go while also being able to one-shot it back with Overheat. You do extremely well into King Gambit, extremely well into Rillaboom. Just a lot of the physical attackers in this format are very fire weak. and Golden being like one of the best special attackers in the format, being fire weak as well, makes Volcarona a very, very attractive pick. And that 100 base speed tier does allow you to outspeed quite a number of Pokemon. So yeah, Volcarona, not much to say about it. It's going to be another one of those balancy Pokemon that you see on a lot of teams here. But also, whether or not it's the Redirection Mon is dependent on the team that you're seeing it on. You see it on Sand, you see it on King Gambit Balance, you see it on P2. It's very splashable. Basically, yeah, if you want a fire type and you want it to have redirection, Magmar or Volcarona. If it's, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's dependent on what your team needs are. And I can't really tell you the difference between Magmar and Volcarona's use cases other than maybe you want to click Will-O-Wisp or Strugglebug or something. Sinistcha is like the least used of all these redirection mons. I mean, I had to make up a set for it. This tanks Flare Blitz from like 100 attack investment Incineroar, and it eats Make It Rain a lot of the time. You can Terra Watt if you really want to. The situation where Sinistcha gets used is rare, but not uncommon. I've seen it next to a few Pokemon. I've seen it next to Annihilate, next to Archaldon. Its main niche is that it is a Grass-type Trick Room user and Ghost-type, so it's immune to both Spore and Fake Out. It's not the most bulky Pokemon, 71 HP with 106 defense, 80 special defense. Not like something to write home about, but still pretty good. Its main niche is going to be Hospitality. Every time it switches in, it restores a quarter of your partner's health just automatically. It's like they get a Citrus Berry every time Sinistcha hits the field. Very annoying at times, but because it's a Grass Ghost type, it has a lot of weaknesses that are very exploitable. Notably, Incineroar is going to be able to like Flare Blitz into you, knock off into you. You're weak to Golden, so you usually have to Terra in front of it. And yeah, it's not super easy to play. You tend to only really see it next to like these really bulky, annoying Pokemon. I don't even know like what teams have done well with it. I know I faced it the final round of I know I faced it like round 8 at Louisville, but yeah, you mostly just see it next to like Annihilate, Archaldon. This is a pretty interesting one. Probably like this makes sense. It's just meant to like probably heal up Multiscale and Dragonite, right? Inner Focus. Never mind. Apparently I was wrong. But yeah, there's a few use cases for it. I don't really know how to get into a mon that doesn't have like a ton of usage like this guy. But it's got Trick Room. It can't be Spored, can't be Faked Out. There's some uses there. I don't know where to tell you to use it. It depends. Probably Archaldon. But yeah, this is just like a quick rundown on each one of the redirection mons. Some of them better explanations than others, but like I said, I feel like this is an important video to get out there. Just the different use cases and scenarios where you want to use each redirection Pokemon, because a lot of people come to me and they say, which one should I be using? And I can't really tell them. So hopefully this will be helpful. If you guys enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.